There's a strange moment no one talks about, a moment when you try to be strong, and you feel yourself break instead. You sit there wondering, why can some people stay focused and motivated, while I fall apart over the smallest things? It feels unfair, almost personal, like the world gave everyone else a stronger mind and handed you the fragile one. But here's the paradox. What you call weakness is often your brain trying to protect you. Not because you are lazy. Not because you lack discipline, but because your mind believes that pushing forward will cost more energy than you have. This is not failure. This is survival. On quiet mornings, when the light is soft and the world has not asked anything from you yet, you may feel a tiny spark inside, a small sense of possibility. But the moment life becomes heavy again, notifications buzzing, work piling up, your own thoughts turning loud, that spark vanishes. It is as if your attention slips through your fingers. Nietzsche noticed this. William James noticed it too. Two men from different worlds, both staring at the same hidden truth about human strength. They believed that inner power does not come from force, or motivation, or pressure. It comes from something much older, something simple, something most people ignore because it looks too small to matter. It is the idea that the mind grows strong not through big heroic acts, but through tiny moments where you choose a little discomfort on purpose. Not pain, not suffering, just small, controlled friction that helps the brain reset its relationship with attention, dopamine, and effort. You may have felt this before without noticing it. The quiet calm after taking a cold breath of morning air. The strange focus that appears after doing the hardest task first. The peace that shows up when you sit in silence before checking your phone. This is the ancient method, hidden in plain sight, simple enough to overlook, powerful enough to change how you see your own mind. And the truth is, your brain is not working against you. It is waiting for you to understand it. The story begins here, at the edge of that small, chosen discomfort, where inner strength quietly starts to grow. Sometimes, when we speak about the mind like this, something soft opens inside. If you felt that, even a little, I want to thank you for being here. This channel is a shared space for people trying to understand their own thoughts without shame or pressure. If you wish, you can subscribe so we can keep learning together at a slow, human pace. And if this message touched you, you may leave a small sign in the comments. Maybe write, "I understand." It helps the story continue, gently. It is strange how strength breaks. We grow up believing that strong people push through everything. They never stop, they never slow down, they never fall apart. So when you try to do the same and your mind suddenly shuts down, you think something is wrong with you. You think you are weaker than others. You think you are failing at life. But the truth is quieter and much more human. Your brain is not a machine. It is a living system trying to keep you safe. When you feel that sharp moment of collapse, the moment when you cannot start the task, cannot answer the message, cannot move forward even though you want to, that is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of overload. Your mind is saying, "This costs more energy than I can give right now." It feels like the world is pushing down on your shoulders, but really, it is your own biology trying to protect your balance. Picture the small moments when this happens. You open your laptop, see the first email, and your chest tightens. You plan to start a project, but a soft fog settles in your head. You want to study, write, or clean your room, but your body becomes heavy. It feels like resistance. It feels like laziness. But it is actually a survival response. Your brain is choosing energy safety over immediate action. Nietzsche talked about this in his own way. He believed that the human mind bends under too much force. When you push yourself with pressure and fear, your strength does not grow. It cracks. William James saw it too. He wrote about the small signs that show when the will is tired, and how people blame themselves instead of understanding their own limits. Both men watched the same quiet truth. A person does not fail because they lack strength. They fail because they use strength the wrong way. Think about a muscle. You cannot lift a heavy weight without warming up. If you try, you tear something. The mind is the same, but no one teaches us this. We try to lift the heaviest parts of our lives with no warm-up, no slow start, no gentle ramp. We call ourselves lazy when the real problem is friction. Too much friction kills momentum. A little friction grows it. This is why that first moment, the moment when strength breaks instead of builds, matters so much. It is the doorway. It is the exact point where you can begin to see laziness differently. Not as an enemy, but as a signal. Not as weakness, but as information. Your brain is telling you something. It is asking for a different kind of effort, a slower kind, a kinder kind. And once you see that signal, the entire story of strength begins to change. There is a quiet fight inside your mind that almost no one sees. It does not look dramatic from the outside. You are not shouting or breaking down. You are just sitting there, staring at a task, feeling a strange pull in two directions. One part of you wants to move forward. Another part refuses. It feels confusing, almost embarrassing, because you cannot explain why something so small feels so heavy. This is the silent negotiation your brain holds every day. It is the place where desire meets resistance. Nietzsche saw this battle as the tension between the self you want to be and the self that is afraid of the cost. William James described it as the mind trying to decide where to place its limited energy. Both thinkers were talking about the same truth. You are not one thing. You are a mix of urges, fears, hopes, and protective instincts, and they do not always agree. Imagine this scene. Your room is quiet. The air is still. You say to yourself, I should start. But inside, two voices speak. One says, move. The other says, wait. The move part wants progress, progress that feels meaningful and good. The wait part feels the friction. It senses the effort ahead. It predicts the discomfort. Your brain tries to choose between reward and safety, and the result feels like paralysis. This is not laziness. It is a natural part of human psychology. When you try to act, the brain checks how much energy the action will cost. Then it checks your current state. If the cost seems higher than what you can give, resistance rises. This resistance often feels like anxiety, procrastination, or tiredness. But none of these feelings are moral problems. They are signals. They are the brain's way of protecting you from what it believes is too much. Nietzsche believed that inner conflict is necessary because it pushes you to learn what you truly value. William James believed that conflict is the moment where the will finds its shape. And both of them believed something else, something important. Your mind is always trying to choose the path that hurts the least. Not because you are weak, but because pain and effort are expensive to the brain. Think about dopamine for a moment, in the simplest way possible. Dopamine is not about pleasure, it is about possibility. It is the chemical that says, maybe this is worth it. When the possibility feels low, motivation drops. When the possibility feels high, the brain opens a door. So the negotiation inside you is really about this question. Is the effort worth the energy I will spend? Some days the answer is yes. Some days the answer is no. And that is normal, human, honest. But hidden inside this quiet struggle is something old and powerful. A method used by many ancient cultures. A method Nietzsche and James admired without fully naming. A method built not on force, but on small choices that gently shift this inner negotiation. It is closer to you than you think. There is an old idea that almost everyone has heard of, but very few people actually understand. It is simple, almost too simple, which is why most people ignore it. Nietzsche saw it in ancient stories. William James noticed it in human behavior, and countless cultures practiced it long before psychology had a name for it. The idea is this: small, chosen discomfort builds inner strength, not big suffering, not dramatic challenges, not pain for the sake of pain. Just small moments when you gently step outside your comfort zone on purpose. You have probably felt this without realizing it. when you take a cold breath of air in the morning and feel suddenly awake. When you turn off your phone and sit with your own thoughts for a few quiet minutes. When you walk a little farther than usual. When you do the small, boring task first instead of running from it. These tiny choices create a shift inside the brain. They reset your attention. They open a little space where willpower feels lighter, not heavier. Ancient cultures used this method everywhere. Warriors took cold baths. Monks woke early. Philosophers walked long distances alone. But they were not trying to suffer. They were teaching their minds to stay steady in the face of small friction. They were teaching the brain that effort is safe. They were building a calm relationship with discomfort, one breath at a time. Nietzsche believed that people collapse mentally not because life is too hard, but because they forget how strong they actually are. He thought that voluntary discomfort reconnects you to this truth. William James believed that when you choose a small difficulty on purpose, you train the will, meaning you teach your brain that effort is something you can control, not something that controls you. Modern psychology explains it in another simple way. The brain needs contrast. When you choose a tiny discomfort, you shift your state. You create a little mental spark. Your attention sharpens. Your dopamine system wakes up. A new path opens. The body relaxes, even while the mind leans forward. This is why voluntary discomfort works. It tells the brain, I am safe in challenge. It lowers limbic friction, the invisible resistance between wanting something and actually doing it. Suddenly, the negotiation inside your mind becomes easier. The move voice becomes a little louder. The wait voice becomes a little softer. And you begin to feel something rare. Quiet confidence. You do not need to run a marathon. You do not need to meditate for an hour. You do not need to transform your life. The method works only because it is small. A short, cold shower, a few minutes of silence, eating without checking your phone, doing the hardest task first, standing outside for one slow breath before you start your day. Tiny steps, tiny friction, tiny power. And when this becomes a habit, something inside you begins to shift in a deep and simple way, preparing you for what comes next. Small friction looks weak from the outside, but inside the mind it creates real change. It works slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. You may not notice anything on the first day, or the second, or even the third, but something gentle begins to shift underneath the surface. The brain learns that effort does not always hurt. It learns that discomfort does not always mean danger. And this is where inner strength begins to grow in a soft, steady way. Think of a match. If you strike it against a smooth surface, nothing happens. But if you strike it against a surface with a little friction, a small flame appears. Your mind works in the same way. When there is zero friction, you lose energy. You drift. You feel foggy. But when there is a tiny amount of friction chosen on purpose, the spark of attention returns. Your brain wakes up. It says, oh, this is different. This is why small discomforts matter. They give your mind something to push against without overwhelming it. They lower the resistance that makes action so hard. They also help regulate dopamine in the simplest way. When you take a small step that requires effort, your brain releases a gentle wave of dopamine afterward. Not excitement, not joy, just a light sense of progress. And this slow progress is what creates long-term motivation. Think about the first minutes of a cold shower. Your breath catches, your skin tightens. But then something strange happens. Your mind becomes clear. Your thoughts slow down, the noise inside your head softens. This is the body switching states. This is the nervous system learning that a little discomfort is safe. It is a reset, not a punishment. The same thing happens when you walk outside for a few minutes, or do a hard task first, or sit in silence before touching your phone. These small frictions tell your brain, you can handle more than you think. And slowly they reduce the limbic friction, the invisible gap between wanting to act and actually acting. Over time, that gap becomes smaller. Your body stops freezing as quickly. Your mind stops panicking at the first sign of effort. Your attention becomes easier to guide. Nietzsche believed that people lose strength not because they are weak, but because they forget to use their power in small ways. William James believed that every tiny act of chosen effort trains the will like a muscle. When you put their ideas together, you get a simple truth. Small discomforts are not meant to make you tougher. They are meant to make you calmer. You begin to trust yourself. You stop feeling scared of effort. You stop running from tasks. You feel less trapped by your own habits. And in that space, something new appears, a kind of quiet power that does not need to shout or prove anything. This is the beginning of a different way of living, one that leads to a softer, lighter relationship with your mind. There is a moment, usually very quiet, when you begin to live more gently with your own mind. It does not arrive with excitement. It does not feel like a victory. It feels more like a soft exhale after holding your breath for too long. The small discomforts you practiced stop feeling like challenges. They begin to feel like anchors. You notice that you are not fighting yourself as often. You do not collapse as quickly. You move through your day with a little more space inside your chest. This is the real gift of the ancient method. It is not about becoming strong in a loud way. It is about becoming steady in a quiet way. You start to understand your brain the way you understand a close friend. You know when it is tired. You know when it needs a pause. You know when it is ready to lean forward again. You stop blaming yourself for every moment of resistance, and instead you listen. You treat your inner world with care instead of judgment. Nietzsche believed that peace comes not from defeating yourself, but from walking beside yourself. William James believed that identity grows through tiny choices repeated over time. When you combine these ideas with the practice of small, chosen discomfort, something beautiful begins to happen. You no longer measure your worth by how much you do. You measure it by how calmly you can return to yourself. Imagine your day like a room filled with warm light. You wake up, breathe in the morning air, and start with one small step. Maybe you wash your face with cool water. Maybe you clean the space around you for 2 minutes. Maybe you stay off your phone a little longer. These tiny acts shape your attention. They help you slow down. They help you find a rhythm that feels human, not mechanical. As this rhythm settles into your life, you begin to notice small shifts. You feel less overwhelmed by simple tasks. You do not fear effort the way you once did. You give yourself permission to rest without guilt. Your thoughts stop spiraling so quickly. You speak to yourself with softer language. You discover that strength can be gentle and gentleness can be strong. This is what living lightly with your own mind feels like. Not a dramatic transformation, not a sudden wave of motivation. Just a steady, quiet trust that grows from the inside. The ancient method becomes part of you. It holds your hand through difficult days. It gives you calm during chaotic moments. It makes you feel whole, even when life feels messy. And as you move through your days with this softer power, you begin to understand something precious. Inner strength is not something you chase. It is something you grow, breath by breath, through small choices that honor your mind instead of attacking it. If this idea touched you, you may write "I move gently" in the comments as a small reminder to yourself. If you reached this point, thank you for staying with me. I hope something in this story opened a small space inside you, or helped you see your mind with a little more kindness. If you felt a quiet shift, even for a moment, you're welcome to subscribe so we can keep walking this path together at a gentle pace. You can like this video if it gave you calm or clarity. And if the message spoke to you in a deeper way, you may leave the words "I move gently" in the comments. It is a simple reminder that your strength does not need to be loud. It only needs to be yours.